AITA for leaving my cheating wife, nothing thanks to her greedy prenup? I'm a 48-year-old man today, and this story begins 20 years ago, when I had been dating a girl named Fiona for 2 years. Madly in love, foolishly in love. I thought I was on top of the world because I had just been promoted to logistics coordinator at a factory. I was making a decent living. I drove a Honda that was basically a closet on wheels and lived in a studio apartment with a Murphy bed. Her parents were the exact opposite. Her dad was a finance guy who wore glasses that cost more than my monthly rent. Her mom drove a Mercedes that she swapped out every 3 years for safety. They lived in one of those neighborhoods where all the houses look like they were designed by the same architect obsessed with columns and circular driveways. The first time I met them, I showed up in my best chino pants and a button-down shirt bought at Target. Her dad shook my hand like he was conducting a job interview. "You must be the operations man," he said, as if I worked in a coal mine. "Buddy, I coordinate logistics. I do not mind diamonds with my bare hands." Dinner was a whole production. Crystal glasses for water, like we were dining with royalty. 3 forks. Who needs 3 forks? Her mom grilled me on my 5-year plan and my investment portfolio. "Ma'am, my investment portfolio is putting $20 into a savings account and praying my car does not die." But here is the interesting part. About 6 months before I proposed, her dad pulled me aside at a family barbecue. He tells me, "My boy, I want to talk to you about asset protection." I thought he was going to give me stock market advice or something like that. Not at all. The guy pulls out a leather briefcase, not a folder, a real portfolio, and starts talking to me about prenuptial agreements like he was selling me a timeshare. "It's just a sound financial decision," he said. "Nothing personal, it protects everyone." When I finally proposed to Fiona, with a ring financed over 18 months because I am not an idiot, her parents invited me over to their house to discuss. I thought we were going to talk about the venue or stuff like that. Wrong again. They had their lawyer there, their lawyer sitting at the kitchen table with a binder. Not a folder, not a few sheets of paper, a ring binder with tabs and everything. It looked like a document capable of launching missiles. The lawyer spoke with that monotone voice legal professionals use when they are about to screw you over while making it sound friendly. "It's simply standard protection for both parties," he said, sliding the binder toward me like it was a peace treaty. I flipped through the thing, and it was like reading an instruction manual written by someone who hates joy. Everything neatly separated. Blue tab, alimony waiver. Red tab, that should have been a warning. Infidelity clause. Orange tab, yes, they went that far. Inheritance protection. Green tab, the contraption even had a table of contents. Her dad sat there, acting like this was all perfectly normal, as if every engagement came with its own legal seminar. "It's very simple," he said. "What's yours stays yours, what's hers stays hers." Clean and clear. The infidelity clause was my favorite. If either party cheats on the other and it can be proven by a preponderance of the evidence, which in fancy lawyer speak means we're pretty sure you did it, then that person forfeits all right to attorney fee reimbursement. Her mom literally said, "If no one intends to cheat, it shouldn't be a problem." Wow. With a smile capable of freezing the flames of hell. "Thanks for the trust, Karen." Inside, I was screaming, "Are you serious right now?" But out loud, I just said, "All right, I guess that makes sense." Then came the ultimatum delivered by her dad with all the warmth of a parking ticket. "This gets signed before the wedding or there will be no wedding." It was a true emotional hostage situation. Sign or the princess stays in her tower. I called my buddy Bill that night, furious. "Dude, they want me to sign a contract like I'm buying a house, not marrying Fiona." Bill's response: "Bro, if you're sure you're not going to cheat and you don't give a damn about their money, who cares? Sign the thing and marry the girl." So, I found a cheap lawyer. The guy worked in a strip mall between a nail salon and a Subway. "It's aggressive, but not illegal," he told me. "Pretty standard among the rich. Are you comfortable with the terms?" I was 28 years old. I made a decent living. I love this girl. I had no intention of cheating on anyone or stealing from anyone. How complicated could it be? Sure, whatever. Famous last words. We got married. Beautiful wedding. Even though Fiona's parents controlled every detail, as if they were planning the Normandy landings. I wanted a DJ. They hired a string quartet. I wanted an open bar. They chose signature cocktails that no one knew how to pronounce. But hey, I was marrying the girl, not the wedding. And during the first few years, life was truly good. We moved into a small 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom suburban house built in the 80s, back when everyone thought beige was the pinnacle of sophistication. But it had a garage, a backyard, and neighbors who minded their own business. Perfect. Then the kids came along. Claire first, then Nate 2 years later, then Luke 2 years after that, then Julia. For kids in 8 years because apparently we had no television, no birth control, and no self-restraint. My wife wanted to stay home with them, and it made sense. I became the beast of burden. Wake up at 5:30, gym before work because it was the only hour of the day that belonged to me. The promotions kept coming. Logistics coordinator, supply chain analyst, logistics supervisor, supply chain manager. Every position meant more responsibility, more hours, more bullshit, but also more money. I was that guy who actually read the employee handbook, maxed out his retirement plan, and learned every system by heart. Not because I loved working, but because I understood the math. More hours equaled more money equaled a better life for the family. The house became our project. Weekends at Home Depot. Learning how to install ceiling fans and fix leaks, because paying a contractor for every little thing is how you stay broke. YouTube University taught me more about home maintenance than my dad ever did. The weekday routine ran like clockwork. Get home, help with homework, dinner, bath time for the little ones, bedtime stories, collapse on the couch. Weekends were soccer games, birthday parties, errands, and the renovation project I was convinced I could finish in an afternoon. Refinancing the mortgage, on the other hand, was magnificent. Rates dropped. We had equity, a good credit score. We went from a 30-year loan to a 15-year loan. The monthly payment barely changed. That choice probably saved us $100,000 over the life of the loan. Fiona thought I was a genius. Her parents were bearable during this period. They would come visit, bring overpriced gifts the kids absolutely did not need, and make comments about the neighborhood, calling it charming, with that tone that meant exactly the opposite. But they seemed to approve of the way we were handling things. Her dad even complimented me once on my lawn. A huge compliment coming from a guy who paid someone else to mow his. The prenuptial agreement became a sort of weird family joke. Good thing you signed that thing, her mom would say at Christmas dinner. It simplifies everything, her dad would add, nodding his head like it was his greatest achievement. Right up there with the invention of fire. I would just smile and change the subject. Fiona was great at being a mom. I will give her that. She ran the house like a military operation. She knew every teacher of every kid, every friend's parent, every scheduling conflict 3 months in advance. I managed the money, the maintenance, the planning. She handled the logistics, the social life, the emotional load. It worked. We paid off the house 3 years ago, 12 years ahead of the original 30-year schedule, exactly as planned with the 15-year refinance. Every bonus, every tax refund, every extra dollar went into the mortgage like the bank owed us money. The kids were growing up well, the house was ours, work was stable, finances too. Normal problems, normal solutions. I thought we had it all figured out. Then her parents' money started disappearing, and everything went sideways. Around the 15th year of our marriage, I started noticing changes in them. Subtle at first. They stopped talking about their latest vacation or their new car. Then her dad started asking me questions about my retirement strategy and wondering if I thought gold was a good hedge against inflation. A bad year in the markets became their favorite excuse for everything. Their country club membership temporarily lapsed. The mountain vacation home was sold to simplify things. The Mercedes was traded in for a Honda. They were still trying to keep up appearances, but the cracks were visible. Her dad, who once talked about money like he was Warren Buffett's smarter brother, suddenly wanted to discuss conservative investment strategies and capital protection. Translation: the guy was terrified and had no idea what he was doing. Playing rich is a lot easier when you actually have money. It turned out they had bet heavily on an investment scheme that sounded too good to be true because it was indeed too good to be true. Some emerging markets thing with guaranteed returns. When it all collapsed, it wiped out most of their liquid assets. Then the lawsuit started. Multiple lawsuits. Her dad was involved on both sides of some very messy legal cases. He was suing the guys who sold him the bad investments while simultaneously being sued by other investors who felt he should have known better. The legal fees swallowed up whatever the failed investments had not already destroyed. And we are not talking about strip mall lawyers charging $300 to review documents. We are talking about upscale firms billing $800 an hour to argue about who was responsible for what. Her parents were bleeding themselves dry, fighting over money they had already lost. My wife took it very hard. She had grown up believing her parents were financially unshakable, and now they were shopping at Target instead of Nordstrom. It is not exactly a tragedy, but for someone who had never seen her parents worry about money, it was like watching Superman get beat down. She started spending more time helping her parents, which really meant hanging around their house, talking about the good old days, and complaining about the lawyers. I understood. Family is family. But it also meant she was less present, less invested, less there. The kids were growing up and becoming more independent. Claire was in college, Nate in high school, Luke in middle school, and Julia in high school too. The intense everything for the kids phase was coming to an end, and my wife was getting restless inside. That is when the finding myself phase began. First a daytime book club, then yoga classes, then a pottery workshop, then volunteering at the art museum. Perfectly normal things, except she treated them like a full-time job. I would get home from work and she would already be leaving for a meeting, a class, or an event. "Don't wait up for me," became her usual parting phrase. I handled dinner with the kids, homework, the bedtime ritual. Then I would sit on the couch wondering when the hell my wife was coming home. When I tried to bring it up, she would get defensive. "I spent 15 years raising your kids and running your house. Now I want to do something for myself." As if I had been holding her prisoner. Okay, fine. Everyone deserves hobbies, but hobbies do not usually involve coming home past midnight 3 nights a week. The arguments started slowly. Little passive-aggressive remarks about appreciation and effort. She would make dinner and act like she had performed surgery. I would fix the sink disposal and get a lecture because I never noticed everything she did around the house. "You take me for granted," was her favorite phrase. Meanwhile, I was working 50 hours a week. I managed all the finances, maintained the house, and showed up to every important event for the kids. But apparently, I was not emotionally present enough. I tried date nights. I hired babysitters, booked restaurants, bought flowers. But it all felt forced, like we were playing a part instead of reconnecting. She spent half the dinner texting or talking about the drama in her museum volunteer group. Our intimate life dried up around this time too. We went from regular to occasional, then only on special occasions. When I brought it up, she would say she was tired, stressed, or did not feel appreciated. The classic vicious cycle. You do not feel close because you are not intimate, and you are not intimate because you do not feel close. I admit my share of the blame. I operated on autopilot for too long. Work, house, kids, repeat. I thought as long as I fulfilled my obligations, the rest would eventually work itself out. I was wrong. But here is what really makes me angry. I was always there. I worked, I paid the bills, I fixed what broke. I was a present father. I was not perfect, but I had not checked out either. I was doing what I thought marriage was, a partnership, teamwork, building something together. She was doing something else. I just did not know what yet. The truly twisted part. Her parents started getting closer to me during this time. They had always tolerated me, but now they were downright warm. They would ask how work was going, compliment the house, and say how proud they were of the family we had built. Her dad even dropped something along the lines of, "You really brought stability to our daughter." It's not easy nowadays. Coming from a guy who used to act like I was lucky to breathe the same air as his daughter, it was bizarre. You know how in the movies, the guy always discovers the infidelity in some dramatic way, catching them together, seeing them at a restaurant, finding a love letter. Well, in real life, it is much more mundane. I found out because her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs getting ready for another one of those famous yoga nights. Just a notification lighting up the screen while I was cleaning up after dinner. The preview showed a first name I did not recognize and a picture I will not describe, but let us just say it did not come from her yoga instructor. I did not confront her immediately. I did not yell. I did not throw anything. I did not make a scene. I did what any good operations manager would do. I started documenting. First stop, our online phone account. We are on a family plan, so I have access to the usage records. 3 months of history painted a pretty clear picture. Tons of texts and calls to a number I did not recognize, mostly during work hours. The pattern was obvious once you knew what to look for. Next, I checked the credit card statements. Incredible what you do not see when you are not looking. Business lunches at restaurants I had never heard of. Downtown hotel charges when she was supposed to be at her book club. Small purchases at hotel gift shops, coffee, snacks, the kind of things you buy when killing time between room service and round 2. The iPhone location tracking was the real gold mine. She had never turned off location sharing because why would she? We are married, right? No secrets. Except apparently, her yoga studio had mysteriously relocated to the downtown Marriott, and her book club was meeting in the afternoon at some guy's apartment. I printed everything out. I built a timeline that would have made a prosecutor jealous. Dates, times, locations, expenses, everything was filed in a folder. The guy turned out to be a divorced man she had met through her volunteering. Recently separated, kids every other weekend, the whole classic midlife crisis package. I found his social media pretty easily. Pictures of his motorcycle, inspiring quotes about living authentically. A deep thinker, this one. Probably had no regrets, tattooed somewhere. 3 weeks of surveillance confirmed what I already knew. Tuesday and Thursday yoga, the Monday book club, and Friday girls' night were all totally fake. She had a whole second life I knew nothing about. All those late nights, all those mysterious new interests, all her arguments about not feeling appreciated. All the while, I was trying to fix a marriage that was already dead, bringing flowers to a funeral. I called a lawyer the next morning. I showed up with my evidence folder and a copy of our prenuptial agreement. She read through it all while I sat across from her. "How long have you suspected something?" she asked me. "About a month that I'm sure of. Maybe 6 months of doubt." Very good documentation. And this contract is interesting. Alimony waiver after the youngest turns 18 and that infidelity clause regarding attorney fees. This is not standard language. Her parents' lawyer drafted this. She smiled. Well, their lawyer just became your best friend. With your youngest being 17 and this level of proof, you are in an extremely strong position. The question is, do you want to settle this amicably or go to court? What's the difference? A settlement is faster and cheaper. Court is longer and more expensive. But with this contract and your evidence, you would likely win everything you are entitled to, plus attorney fees paid by your wife. I thought about it for about 10 seconds. How fast can the papers be served? 2 weeks, if you want to do things right. Let's do them right. I went home that afternoon and looked at the house differently. 20 years of payments, weekend projects, ordinary family life. The place where we raised our kids, celebrated birthdays, debated who had to take out the trash. Now, it felt like a museum of a life that was already over. But I was not sad. I was angry. Not just because of the cheating, but because of the lies, the manipulation, the way she made me believe I was the problem while she had a secret boyfriend. Because of the years of my life wasted trying to fix something she had already destroyed. And you know what pissed me off the most? She still came home every night acting like nothing was wrong. She still complained about the dishes. She still asked me how my day was. She still played the role of the devoted wife and mother. She was either a sociopath, or she thought I was a complete idiot. Probably both. The kids knew nothing, and that was exactly how it needed to be. They had their own problems. School, friends, college applications, normal teenage worries. The last thing they needed was to learn their mom was having an affair with a divorced loser who rode his motorcycle to volunteer meetings. On the surface, I kept everything normal. I still went to Nate's wrestling matches. I still helped Luke with his college essays. I still made pancakes on Saturday mornings. But inside, I was counting down the days until the sheriff showed up at our door with a manila envelope that would change everything. 2 weeks felt like 2 years, but finally, the day arrived. I was at work when it happened. More precisely, I was in a meeting about supplier performance metrics when my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. Service completed at 2:47 p.m. I wrapped up the meeting, sorted out a few odds and ends. Then I drove home with a knot in my stomach because I knew the next few hours were going to be monumental chaos. I pulled into the driveway around 5:30 p.m. Her car was there, so she had been served and was probably inside calling every divorce lawyer in the phone book. The kids would not be home for another hour. Perfect timing. I walked through the front door. She was sitting at the kitchen table, the papers spread out in front of her like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Red eyes, running makeup, tissues everywhere. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the hotel bills, and that feeling passed. Seriously? She said, looking up. This is how you want to handle things? Sending a sheriff like I'm a criminal. Have you lost your mind? That's how it works. Nothing personal. Nothing personal? 20 years of marriage and 4 kids is nothing personal? Do you hear yourself? I dropped my keys on the counter and looked at her. This woman I had loved, trusted, and built a life with, the mother of my children. Now, just one more problem to manage. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, I told her. Up to you. That is when the waterworks really started. The crying, the apologies, the begging to go to therapy, the promises that it was just a mistake, that it meant nothing. The whole routine. If I had not seen the evidence with my own eyes, it almost could have been convincing. I know about Jason, I said calmly. I know everything. Her face turned ashen. Unmasked. No more lies. No more gaslighting. No more making me out to be the crazy one imagining problems. No, it's not what you think. Stop. Just stop. I held up my hand. All communication goes through the lawyers from now on. You can't be serious. We have kids together. We can fix this. The kids will be fine. We will both be fine. But we are not fixing anything. It is over. You can't throw it all away over one mistake. Watch me. You crossed the line. Now, face the consequences. 20 years don't count. Exactly, Fiona. 20 years were not enough to teach you loyalty. I went upstairs, changed my clothes, came back down, and started making dinner as if nothing had happened. She sat at the kitchen table crying, making calls to her parents, her sister, probably a few lawyers too. The kids came home one by one. Julia first, bursting in after soccer practice, dirty and cheerful. Then Nate, in the middle of a phone argument about something that happened at school. Finally, Luke, exhausted from his shift at the restaurant where he worked part-time. The usual family chaos. Someone asked what was for dinner. Someone else complained about homework. For a few minutes, it looked like any other Tuesday night, except their mother was sitting at the table looking like someone who had just lost a loved one, and I was stirring tomato sauce while mentally calculating how to divide 20 years of a shared life into 2 separate existences. I waited until after dinner. Then I asked them all to sit at the table. Your mom and I are separating, I said. No preamble, no sugarcoating. It is not because of you. It changes nothing about how much we love you. But we are not going to live together anymore. Silence. Julia started crying immediately. She was 17, but still the baby of the family, the one who still believed her parents were invincible. Nate got angry first. What the hell? Dad, just like that? Out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. Your mom and I have been having problems for a while. Then fix them, Luke said. He had been quiet until then, but now he was looking at me like I had just announced I was running away to join the circus. That's what married people do. Some problems cannot be fixed, I told them. This is one of them. More tears, more questions, more anger. I stuck to the planned speech. Unfixable problems. I love you all. Nothing changes for you. We will work out the details. I promised them I would always be there for the games, the concerts, whatever they needed. What I did not tell them was why. The cheating, the lies, the evidence locked in my lawyer's office. That was grown-up business, and they were still kids, even the ones who were technically old enough to vote. Fiona just sat there crying. She said nothing. She did not try to defend herself, or blame me, or promise the kids we would fix things. Maybe she finally understood that the situation was irreversible. Over the following days, she tried everything. Tears, begging, bargaining, threats. She called my parents, my brother, my best friend, anyone she thought could make me change my mind. She proposed therapy 50 times. She swore she would end her relationship with Jason. None of it mattered. I had made my decision with my head, not my heart. The heart part had been over for months, maybe years. From then on, it was purely logistical. I moved into the guest room and started living like a tenant in my own house. Separate schedules, separate meals, separate lives. The kids adapted faster than I would have thought. Teenagers are incredibly resilient when they have to be. Then she started using them as messengers. Tell your dad we should try therapy. Tell him he's being stubborn. Tell him he's hurting the family. Classic manipulation designed to trap me in an impossible position. If I answered the kids, I was dragging them into adult problems. If I did not answer, I looked like a heartless jerk who did not care about his family. She knew exactly what she was doing. That is when I went from separation to full-on divorce. When someone tries to weaponize your kids against you, all bets are off. Julia's 18th birthday was supposed to be simple. She had explicitly asked for something low-key because she was stressed with exams and did not want a big event. I should have known that would not happen. In my family, simple and drama-free are two incompatible concepts. The first hour went well. We managed to have normal conversations. Julia's classes, Nate's wrestling season, Luke's summer plans. Even my in-laws behaved decently, although her dad kept shooting me weird looks. Claire was there with her boyfriend, a decent enough guy, but with that nervous energy of someone who knows he just walked into a family crisis without knowing where the explosions will come from. A smart kid, probably the only one who actually read the room correctly. We ordered pizzas from Julia's favorite spot. She looked happy, and that was all that mattered. She suffered the most through all this crap, probably because she is the youngest and still lives at home. And then my wife decided to make a toast. She stood up with her Coke Zero with that look signaling she was about to say something that would make everyone uncomfortable. I tried to catch her eye, to shake my head, to signal, absolutely do not do this here. But she was already off. I just want to say how wonderful it is to have the whole family together for such an important day, she started, scanning the table as if accepting an award. Family is the most important thing, and I hope we always find ways to stay close no matter what challenges we face. Dead silence. Everyone knew what she really meant. Nate put his fork down and looked at her like she had just started speaking German. Luke tensed up in his chair. Julia's face turned red. Mom, Nate said quietly, please don't do this. Not tonight. But Claire could not help herself. What is wrong with wanting the family to stay together? She asked, defending their mother like she always did. She's just saying she loves us. That is when Julia, sweet quiet Julia, the one who never makes waves, put down her slice of pizza, looked up at her sister, and said, Claire, stop. You don't really want the family to stay together. You just want no one to find out you've been helping Mom cover up her affair. The silence that followed was so absolute I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. My in-laws looked like they had been hit with a taser. Luke's mouth hung open. Nate's eyes widened. Even the boyfriend looked uncomfortable, and he barely knew half the people. My wife tried to speak, but no sound came out. She was opening and closing her mouth like a fish. Claire started crying, stammering denials, but Julia was not finished. I'm not stupid, she continued. I have known for months. The lies about where Mom was going, the deleted messages, the way you covered for her when Dad asked questions. I watched this family fall apart while everyone pretended everything was fine, and I am sick of it. Then she got up from the table and went upstairs to her room. The room exploded. Claire in tears, Fiona trying to explain. My in-laws demanding to know what was going on. Luke asking if someone could please explain to him what was happening. Nate just sat there with the expression of someone who had just been told Santa Claus was real, but was also a serial killer. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and addressed the room as if I was ending a particularly unproductive meeting. Party is over. Everybody out. Now. It took me about 3 minutes to clear the house. My in-laws left without saying goodbye. Claire left in tears, dragging her completely bewildered boyfriend behind her. Nate went up to his room, probably to text his friends and try to process what had just happened. Fiona tried to stick around to talk, but I told her to go spend the night at her parents' house. We would handle the fallout tomorrow through our lawyers. I found Julia in her room sitting on her bed, looking exhausted. Sorry your birthday got ruined, I told her. It's not ruined, she replied. I'm just sick of everyone pretending. It feels good to finally have it all out in the open. A smart kid. How long have you known? I asked. Since last summer. I came home early from soccer camp and saw Mom's car outside some guy's apartment building. And why didn't you tell me? She shrugged. What was I supposed to say? Hey Dad, I think Mom is cheating on you. You guys were supposed to work that out between yourselves. I hugged her and told her she was the best thing her mother and I ever did together, which was true. Then I went downstairs, thinking an 18-year-old girl had just shown more maturity than everyone else in her family combined. Around midnight, Nate found me in the kitchen. How long have you known Mom was cheating on you? A few months. And Claire knew. Apparently. He thought for a minute. That's really messed up, Dad. Language. I replied automatically before realizing how ridiculous that was given the situation. But yes, it is really messed up. That was the last time I spoke to Claire for 6 months. Not to punish her, not out of cruelty, but because I could no longer trust her. When someone chooses to participate in deceit that destroys their own family, they lose access to you. It is as simple as that. Some people found it harsh. I called it setting boundaries. And here we are 8 months later. The discovery phase is over. Settlement negotiations are going nowhere, and my lawyer literally salivates every time she opens our case file. The irony is beautiful. Her parents spent God knows how much money on this prenuptial agreement to protect their fortune from a supposedly gold-digging son-in-law. Then they lost their fortune. Then their daughter cheated on her husband. And now, that very same contract is destroying her. Here's how it looks. Alimony, spousal support, completely voided. The contract clearly states that no financial support is owed after the youngest child turns 18. Julia just turned 18. That door slammed shut hard. Attorney fees. Thanks to the infidelity clause in my folder of evidence, she is paying her own fees while mine will be reimbursed to me. My lawyer estimates she has already spent about $30,000 in legal fees. I have spent about $8,000, which I will get back. The house, and here is where it gets really interesting. We own it outright. No loan, no mortgage. A paid-off house valued at about $400,000. The contract calls for a split of the equity, minus any expenses incurred after separation. Since our separation, I have been paying all the bills: electricity, insurance, property taxes, maintenance. About $3,000 a month that I can deduct from her share. 8 months times $3,000 equals $24,000 in deductions, and it keeps adding up. She wants to keep the house, but she cannot buy me out. No income, no credit, ruined parents. Banks are not lining up to lend $200,000 to a 48-year-old woman with no work history. Retirement accounts. My pre-marriage retirement plan stays entirely mine. The growth during the marriage is split according to a formula, but since I maxed out contributions for 20 years, the majority of the value is either pre-marriage or post-separation. She might get $40,000 total from the retirement accounts. The rest, cars, furniture, personal belongings. We each keep what we brought into the marriage, plus whatever we can agree on. There is not much to fight over. The math is simple. She walks away with about $200,000 from the sale of the house, minus her share of the expenses, about $40,000 in retirement, her car, and some furniture. Total net worth walking away, roughly $220,000. Not bad for someone who has not worked in 20 years, but not enough to maintain the lifestyle she was used to, and clearly not enough to keep playing the trendy volunteer while dating guys with motorcycles. On my end, about $200,000 from the house. I keep my retirement, my car, and zero ongoing financial obligations to someone who decided to blow up our marriage. And on top of that, I get to keep working and making a good living while she figures out what 48-year-old women with liberal arts degrees do professionally. Her parents, meanwhile, were completely losing their minds. They kept trying to intervene, suggesting we work out a deal or think of the kids. Her dad even had the nerve to call and tell me I was being unnecessarily harsh, given our long family relationship. Dude, you treated me like the help for 20 years. We are not exactly blood brothers. I reminded him that the prenuptial agreement was his idea, that the terms came from his lawyer, and that I was just letting a contract do what contracts do. He hung up on me. Fiona is now living with her parents, which has to be a special kind of hell for everyone involved. 3 broke people under the same roof, blaming each other for their current situation. Her parents blame her for cheating. She blames them for the contract. Everyone blames me for having the audacity to enforce it. Claire is still trying to play mediator, sending me texts about family forgiveness and how everyone makes mistakes. I do not answer. When all this is over, maybe we will grab a coffee and I will listen to her. But for now, she is still in her mother's camp, and I have zero desire to be managed by a 22-year-old who helped cover up an affair. The other 3 kids are doing fine. Nate's wrestling season is going great. Luke got accepted into his first-choice college. Julia is on the honor roll once again. They have adapted to the new normal better than the adults. They get it. We are going to trial. Fiona's lawyer keeps pushing settlement proposals that completely ignore the contract. My lawyer keeps reminding him that a contract means exactly what it says. Unless she accepts reality soon, A judge will decide. I am not worried about court. Judges see these kinds of cases every day. We have a clear contract, damning evidence of infidelity, and a paper trail thick enough to choke a horse. As I write this final update, I just got a message from my lawyer. My ex-wife's lawyer called to discuss a realistic settlement framework that finally acknowledges the terms of the prenuptial agreement. Translation: they finally read the contract and realized they were screwed. But it was too late. I was done negotiating with people who had spent months trying to rewrite reality. We went to trial. The judge took one look at the prenuptial agreement, one look at my evidence binder, then a look at Fiona's lawyer arguing that a 4-month affair did not really constitute infidelity, and you could literally watch her make her decision in real time. My lawyer presented the evidence like she was running a PowerPoint for a board of directors. Phone records, bank statements, location data, hotel bills, hundreds of pages of documentation. Fiona's side tried the usual bullshit. Unfair contract, change in circumstances, think of the children. Her parents took the stand crying, explaining they never wanted the contract to be so harsh, that it was supposed to be more of a deterrent than anything else. Then they called Jason as a witness. The guy showed up looking like someone who would rather be getting a root canal. Under oath, he basically confirmed everything. The timeline, the hotels, the whole story. Fiona's lawyer asked him if he had pressured her into having an affair. Jason actually laughed and answered that she was the one who pursued him. Very romantic. When Fiona testified, she tried the moment of weakness defense. Tears on cue, speeches about not feeling appreciated. But when my lawyer started questioning her about the lies, all the specific lies, what she had told me and the kids, she fell apart. She had to admit she roped Claire into covering her tracks while she went to Jason's. The judge did not take long to rule. She came back from recess and essentially declared that the prenuptial agreement was clear, that the evidence was overwhelming, and that contracts mean exactly what they say. Prenup enforced in full. And thanks to the infidelity clause, Fiona had to pay both parties legal fees, about $45,000 total. The fallout was exactly what you would expect. House sold, assets split according to the contract. Everything finalized exactly as planned. Fiona walked away with about $180,000 from the house after all the deductions I had racked up, about $38,000 from the retirement accounts, her car, and the furniture she wanted to keep. Then came the $45,000 legal bill, which swallowed a huge chunk of what she got. On my end, $220,000 from the house. I kept my entire retirement, my car, and zero ongoing financial obligations to someone who decided to trade 20 years of marriage for hookups in hotel rooms. But here's the best part. 2 weeks after the trial, Jason dumped her. Turns out, sleeping with a married woman is a lot more exciting when there is actually forbidden fruit involved. Once she became a broke divorcee with financial problems, the motorcycle poet suddenly lost all interest. Fiona ended up working retail at a department store for $12 an hour, living back in her childhood bedroom. Her parents had to sell their house to help pay her legal fees, but they owed more than the house was worth. They ended up taking out a loan against the little equity they had left, just to cover the lawyer bills. The kids are doing well. Julia is crushing it in college. Nate made the varsity wrestling team. Luke has his career path already mapped out. They see their mom when they feel like it, but they have no desire to pretend everything is normal when it clearly is not. Claire finally stopped playing family mediator after about 6 months of ignored texts like, "We should all forgive each other. Some bridges you burn, others burn themselves." So there you go. 21 years ago, I signed a contract I thought I would never have to use. It turned out to be the best legal document I ever put my signature on. Her parents' greedy prenup completely destroyed her. Life is good. Yeah. Comment. I know stories like this can stir up strong emotions for everyone. What I really take away from it is the quiet strength found in knowing your worth. It shows how setting firm boundaries is not an act of cruelty, but an act of kindness to yourself. We all have a responsibility to protect our peace of mind. Sometimes, that means making incredibly difficult decisions for our well-being. True healing begins the moment you decide you deserve a life free from disrespect. You cannot control others, but you can always choose your own path toward tranquility. I believe you can do all of this while still holding on to your sense of integrity. I hope you always remember to value yourself above all else. If you like the stories, Don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.